You have visible it before, the unexpected silence after a funny story she did not chortle at, the look that lingers now not with affection however with quiet judgment, the subtle venture, "Why do you usually do that?" added not out of interest however like a blade probing for weak spot. And in that second you ask yourself, why does she do that? Why, when you've given her your first class, does she appear to drag it apart, thread with the aid of thread, testing its energy till you sense bare, uncovered, questioned within the very middle of your masculinity? Here is the brutal truth. Ladies, take a look at guys relentlessly due to the fact nature itself demands it. Niccolò Machiavelli, the ruthless political philosopher of the Renaissance, wrote, "Guys need to be either flattered or crushed." He wasn't speak me of girls, however the principle is the identical. Strength respects handiest strength, and the instant weak spot is revealed, it will be exploited. Contemporary men need peace in relationships. We dream of loyalty, of a girl who will in reality receive us. However, girls are not constructed to accept. They are built to choose. They are nature's gatekeepers, designed through biology to sift via the noise and find the sign. And to take a look at that is her instrument, her filter, her battlefield. You've skilled this battlefield, whether or not you admit it or not. The sarcastic statement after your advertising, the subtle flirting with some other man in front of you just to look your response. The unexpected withdrawal of affection while you idea things have been sooner or later solid. It is maddening, isn't it? You sense betrayed. You ask yourself, why can't she just be glad? Why cannot she stop checking out me? However, what if I instructed you her trying out isn't about you in any respect? What if I told you it is approximately something older, deeper, written in her fearful machine, woven into the architecture of female psychology? Machiavelli observed that people, international locations, rulers, fans in no way forestall probing for weak point. Due to the fact survival depends on understanding whether the inspiration is robust or fragile. A lady's relentless trying out of a man isn't always cruelty. It's far intuition. It is her subconscious manner of asking, are you able to keep me? Are you able to preserve the chaos of life itself? The bitter irony is that this maximum guys fail no longer due to the fact the check is arbitrary, but because they monitor their desperation. They argue, they plead, they get shielding, and in doing so, they show exactly what she fears maximum, fragility. Every man looking this has felt the pain of this paradox. You want her recognition, yet she gives you resistance. You lengthy for her peace, but she offers you chaos. And in your darkest nights you wonder, is love even viable if it feels like a battlefield? However, here's the deeper insight. Machiavelli would tell you that the check is not your enemy. The take a look at is the route. It is her manner of forcing you to develop, of pushing you in the direction of the power she unconsciously craves. If you cannot withstand her storms, how can you withstand the storms of existence? This video will display you why girls test relentlessly, how Machiavelli's brutal knowledge unveils the hidden mechanics of lady psychology, and why once you apprehend it, you may prevent resenting the take a look at and begin gaining knowledge of it. Because the fact is simple, if she stops testing you, it does not imply you have one. It approaches she's already misplaced faith, and this is whilst the real hazard begins. A girl's check is not a random act. It isn't drama for the sake of drama. It isn't cruelty. It is method. It's Miles biology. It's Miles survival. Consider it. For most of human records, a woman's existence and the survival of her youngsters depended on the power of the man she chose. A susceptible guy intended hunger, vulnerability, demise. A robust man supposed protection, assets, survival. So, nature hardwired women with a mechanism. Take a look at him, push him, see if he breaks, and here's where Machiavelli enters the scene. Machiavelli taught rulers one center precept of energy: by no means believe appearances, check loyalty, pressure alliances, Strike at weak point earlier than it moves you. What he found in politics applies similarly to desire. Just as a prince have to constantly check his advisors to look if they are clearly loyal or secretly plotting betrayal, a woman checks her guy to see if he's clearly sturdy or just pretending. You visible this play out to your own existence. She questions your decisions even when you're sure you're right. She withholds affection simply to look in case you crumble. She makes a cutting commentary in public, ready to peer in case you chuckle it off or crumble in disgrace. Why? Because on some primal level, she is aware of that a man's masks of self-belief may be faked, but his reaction beneath pressure cannot. It is the essence of testing. Monitor his middle by using turning up the heat. Right here's the ambiguity. Guys need consolation. Girls create tension. Guys want peace. Ladies deliver storms. Guys need popularity. Girls bring resistance. If you're unprepared, it seems like betrayal. It feels like sabotage. However, it is no longer sabotage. It is selection. Ladies regularly don't even recognize why they test. They don't sit down with a strategy chart plotting ways to destabilize you. The check is subconscious. It flows through her, clearly like respiratory. However, here's the brutal truth Machiavelli would whisper for your ear. Just because it's subconscious does not mean it's harmless. The impact is the equal. The weak are uncovered, the sturdy upward push. So, let me ask you, how do you reply to the take a look at? Do you panic? Do you provide an explanation for yourself without end, hoping she'll see your aspect? Do you lash out trying to dominate her with anger, or do you stay focused, calm, unshaken, unwilling to play her emotional recreation? Because it really is the distinction between a boy and a person, between the ruled and the ruler, between the desperate suitor who begs for approval and the sovereign who commands admire. Inside the prince, Machiavelli warns rulers in no way to depend upon fortune due to the fact fortune is fickle. Alternatively, they have to rely upon virtù, their internal electricity, their ability to bend chaos to their will. Girls check for this same thing. They are fortune personified, unpredictable, chaotic, moving like the wind. And your response, your presence, your composure proves whether or not you are a man of virtue or just another sufferer of fortune's cruelty. The irony is brutal. The check you hate most is the very component that proves you worthy. The storm you resent is the simplest component that forges you unbreakable. And Machiavelli's information makes it clean. Energy is never given. It's far tested, taken, and validated again and again. Every man dreams of peace in love, of coming domestic to softness, to warmth, to a lady who in the end accepts him without assignment. However, if you've lived long enough, you already know peace hardly ever lasts. The battlefield constantly returns. It starts off evolved small, a sarcastic remark, a raised eyebrow at your selection, a question dripping with quiet accusation. Why do you constantly do it that way? At the start, you push aside it, then it grows. Arguments out of nowhere, emotional withdrawals, the storming out, the bloodless silence, and within the middle of all of it, you wonder, why cannot she simply be satisfied? Why cannot she prevent? Right here's the uncomfortable reality, because chaos is her weapon. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler have to by no means permit himself to grow complacent, for complacency breeds vulnerability. He suggested princes to hold their infantrymen busy, their rivals uneasy, their subjects uncertain. Because a restless population is easier to govern than a complacent one. Sound acquainted? It is the psychology of the test. Women do no longer want a complacent man. A person who relaxes too much, who assumes he's safe, is already at the path to decay. Checking out is her way of retaining you sharp, her manner of ensuring you're alive within the combat. You may see her as your partner. She often unconsciously sees herself as your examiner. You're no longer just her lover. You are on trial every day. However, why? Why now not truly offer peace? Because peace in her eyes is dangerous. Peace means you prevent developing. Peace approach you soften. Peace way you get lazy, and laziness is loss of life, both inside the jungle of evolution and in the modern global in which some other man is always ready to take your area. Guys crave stability, girls inject volatility, men crave loyalty, ladies probe for betrayal, guys crave reality, girls take a look at for fact. It seems like betrayal due to the fact you expected home to be safe. However, domestic isn't always secure. Home is the second battlefield after the arena, and handiest a person who can rule each survives. That is why men who beg for peace in relationships constantly go through. They dangle to the illusion that after they win her coronary heart, the exams will forestall. But right here is the Machiavellian insight. The instant the tests prevent, you've got already misplaced. If she no longer assessments, it is because she's now not invested. She's disengaged. She's searching someplace else. Chaos isn't the other of her love. It's far the evidence of it. Her storms are her way of asking, can you resist me? Can you withstand existence? Consider metal. Steel isn't always forged in consolation. Metallic is hammered, damaged, burned in hearth until it emerges unshakable. That is the position of testing in love. She is the fireplace. You are the metallic. And here's the brutal paradox. In case you resent her chaos, you damage. If you master it, you upward push. The battlefield of relationships is not about romance. It's approximately sovereignty. Machiavelli would let you know love is fragile, however, appreciate is long-lasting. And admire is simplest won on the battlefield beneath strain inside the storm. So the query is not, will she check me? The question is, am I a person who prospers within the test or collapses under it? Let's be sincere, most men fail not because the take a look at is impossible, but due to the fact they collapse beneath its weight. And once they collapse, something irreversible occurs in her eyes. The mask slips. The illusion shatters and the attraction dies a sluggish, cruel loss of life. Allows smash down the three commonplace screw-ups. Failure 1, the beggar. This is the man who pleads. She withdraws her affection, and in place of standing firm, he chases. He explains himself forever and ever. He argues, desperate for her to understand him. He believes words can save him as though common sense could seduce her. However, enchantment isn't constructed on words. It's constructed on presence, and the more he begs, the more he shows weak point. She doesn't listen his factors. She feels his desperation. Machiavelli warned rulers never to appear needy. To need is to lack energy. The beggar exposes his dependency, and in doing so, he destroys her belief. Failure, the tyrant. This is the man who overcompensates. She examines him with sarcasm, and in preference to calm electricity, he lashes out. He yells, he threatens, he dominates not with presence, however with brute force. In the beginning, it can appear effective, however its miles brittle electricity. Machiavelli warned that cruelty have to be calculated, by no means reactive. The tyrant is reactive. His aggression is not mastery. It is insecurity disguised as dominance. A female may worry him, however she can no longer admire him. Fear alone cannot sustain enchantment. It breeds resentment, and resentment ultimately rots love from the internal out. Failure 3, the ghost. That is the person who withdraws. She pushes and he retreats into silence, into passivity. He avoids war, avoids confrontation, hoping the typhoon will blow over. However, avoidance is the remaining betrayal. By chickening out, he indicators he cannot face her chaos, and deep down she reads it as cowardice. Machiavelli might say, this guy is sort of a prince who flees his fort at the first signal of rebellion. What topics might follow any such ruler? None. And what girl could follow the sort of man? These are the archetypes of crumble, the beggar, the tyrant, the ghost, one-of-a-kind faces of the identical truth. The person who fears the hurricane loses her appreciate. Because right here is the raw, unfiltered fact. Whilst she tests you, she is not inquiring for words or rage or silence. She is asking, are you unshakable? If you could continue to be composed while she provokes you, if you can smile at her chaos without collapsing or exploding, if you can stay rooted like an O.K. at the same time as the hurricane rages, then something primal shifts in her. She feels secure on your presence, now not because you gave her comfort, however due to the fact you proved you can't be moved. However, most guys in no way get right here. They fall apart earlier than the hearth has even began. They fail not because she is merciless, however due to the fact they're unprepared. And Machiavelli's voice echoes throughout centuries. It's far better to be feared than cherished in case you cannot be both. Do you understand what this indicates in relationships? Love without recognize dies. However, admire without love can nevertheless maintain. Recognize is the inspiration. Love is the decoration. Lose respect, and no quantity of affection can prevent. So the query burns when she assessments you. Do you grow to be the beggar, the tyrant, or the ghost? Or do you stand as the sovereign, the man who bends however does no longer ruin? Believe a storm, the sky darkens. Winds howl, branches snap, everything bends, the entirety breaks besides the mountain. The mountain would not combat the hurricane. It does not beg for mercy. It doesn't run away. It truly stands, immovable, eternal. This is the sovereign guy, wherein the beggar pleads, the tyrant explodes, and the ghost withdraws. The sovereign remains, no longer frozen, no longer passive, however rooted, unshaken, gift, alive. This is the man ladies crave, however not often find. Not due to the fact he performs tricks or memorizes traces, but due to the fact he radiates a first rate that cannot be faked. Internal sovereignty, Machiavelli referred to as its distinctive feature, the strength, cunning, and composure of a real ruler. Now, not mere distinctive feature in the ethical experience, but virtue as strength. The sovereign man embodies this. His presence commands without words. His silence speaks louder than arguments. His calm isn't weak spot. It's Miles' mastery. So how does he pass the test? 1. He doesn't argue. He demonstrates. When challenged, he does now not drown her in factors. He shows through action, no longer words. If she doubts his direction, he frivolously keeps. If she mocks his imaginative and prescient, he sharpens it in addition. The sovereign doesn't convince, he embodies. He doesn't react, he responds. While provoked, he doesn't lash out in rage. He does not crumble in tears. He shall we the fire burn around him and chooses his reaction with precision. Sometimes it's humor, occasionally it is silence, occasionally it is a piercing fact. However, it's always planned, never reactive. Machiavelli counseled rulers to govern their photograph always. The sovereign guy knows the same. When you lose composure, you lose recognize. 3. He frames the chaos. The sovereign guy knows that her chaos isn't the end. It is the check. He would not take it in my opinion. He does not see it as betrayal. He sees it as nature. And due to the fact he sees without a doubt, he transforms her typhoon into fuel. Her resistance turns into his sharpening stone. Her chaos will become his fireplace. Her test becomes his proof. This is why girls secretly crave the sovereign man. Due to the fact while she pushes and he doesn't spoil, she feels something deeper than consolation. She feels secure, no longer secure in the fragile feel of coddling, secure within the primal sense. This guy can face up to me, therefore, he can resist existence. Do you apprehend how effective this is? Whenever she assessments you and also you stand company, her appreciate grows, her attraction deepens, she surrenders. no longer due to the fact you demanded it, however due to the fact you earned it. And right, here's the Machiavellian twist. The sovereign doesn't are searching for her surrender. He does not even need her to test him. His sovereignty exists whether or not she acknowledges it or now not. That independence, that self-sufficiency is what makes him magnetic. Women cannot assist, however, take a look at. However, the sovereign doesn't resent it. He welcomes it due to the fact every take a look at is an possibility to prove to her and to himself that he's who he claims to be. Most men stay in fear of dropping her. The sovereign lives in reality. If she leaves, he remains entire. And ironically, it really is why she stays. Because in a world of susceptible guys, beggars, tyrants, ghosts, the sovereign is rare. Rare is irresistible, and Machiavelli's "know how" reminds us strength belongs not to individuals who demand it, however to individuals who embody it. Every man resents the take a look at. Before everything, you feel attacked, undermined, betrayed. You ask yourself, why cannot she simply love me as I am? Why does she always push, usually query, usually initiate? However, what if I informed you her take a look at isn't an impediment? It's a present. A brutal, uncomfortable, essential present. Think of the blacksmith's forge. The blade does no longer come to be sharp through comfort. It turns into sharp with the aid of fire, with the aid of hammer, with the aid of endless pounding. Each strike looks as if destruction, however its far advent. Her exams are the hammer, her chaos is the hearth, and also you, in case you face up to it, end up the blade. That is why Machiavelli's awareness cuts so deeply right here. He wrote that fortune, the unpredictable chaos of lifestyles, favors the ambitious, the resilient, the man who can adapt underneath stress. Fortune is sort of a girl, he stated, and ought to be mastered with energy. Women, whether or not they comprehend it or not, embody this fortune. Their exams mimic lifestyles itself, unpredictable, risky, disturbing. And if you may withstand her storms, you are training for something larger. The storms of lifestyles, why you need the test. Without it, you soften. Without it, you grow complacent. Without it, you end up weak, lazy, entitled. Go searching at cutting-edge men. How many have collapsed into softness, addicted to consolation, hooked on validation, hooked on a girl's approval? Those guys fail now not because existence become merciless, but due to the fact they prevented the forge. The take a look at is nature's way of refusing you that luxury. It refuses to allow you to rot in consolation. Her chaos mirrors your chaos. Jung taught us that what we reject in others is mostly a replicate of what we reject in ourselves. Whilst she triggers you, whilst her phrases cut deep, it is frequently due to the fact she's revealing something inner you. This is unsettled, unhealed. Her hurricane exposes your cracks, and you hate her for it. But if you're clever, you operate it. You face the shadow internal you that she illuminated. You develop. This is why some guys spoil and others upward thrust. The weak curse the typhoon, the strong harness it. The ambiguity of appreciate. Right here's the hidden paradox, the very issue you resent her for. The relentless checking out is the very factor that makes her admire you. Without the check, there's no evidence. Without the typhoon, there is no metal. Machiavelli would inform you, a ruler cannot consider loyalty untested. A man cannot accept as true with his own power unproven. And a female cannot believe a person who has by no means stood unshaken in her typhoon. So the take a look at isn't always punishment. It's Miles' possibility. Each one is a threat to sharpen your edge to prove your sovereignty no longer handiest to her, however to yourself. And when you see this resentment dies, in place of asking, why does she take a look at me, you begin to ask, what is going to this test forge in me nowadays? That shift from victimhood to sovereignty is the whole lot, because ultimately her test isn't always about her. It is approximately you. It's approximately whether or not you'll stay an infant yearning for comfort or a person who flourishes inside the storm. And while you embody it, something incredible occurs. The typhoon not threatens you, it strengthens you. Her chaos not unsettles you, it refineses you. You forestall fearing her checks and start welcoming them as proof of your strength. This is the hidden gift. That is the forge. So now you recognize. Her exams were never cruelty. They have been the typhoon that found out your power or your weak point. You desired peace. She gave you chaos. You wanted recognition. She gave you resistance. And now you see why. Because only via hearth does metal emerge. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the ambitious, the person who embraces volatility instead of fleeing it. Women encompass this fortune. Their checking out is not an attack. It's the replicate of life itself. And if you disintegrate before her, you will disintegrate earlier than the sector. However, in case you stand company, in case you master the check, something shifts. She stops seeing you as any other fragile boy and starts off-evolve to peer you as a sovereign guy. No longer due to the fact you begged, no longer because you raged, but due to the fact you remained. And here's the fact. The take a look at never ends. Now not in love, not in life. Each day, the arena asks you the same query. She does. Are you robust enough to resist me? Your solution comes to a decision: everything. So stop resenting the hurricane. Become the mountain. Prevent chasing approval. Encompass presence. Stop fearing the check. Grasp it. Because once you do, women will recognize you. Guys will comply with you. And you yourself will recognize deep for your bones that you are unshakable. This isn't just about courting. It's about life. It is approximately constructing guys who upward thrust within the hearth. Men who do no longer beg for mercy, but forge themselves into rulers in their very own destiny. And if you felt that fact burn inner you, like this video, percentage this with a brother who wishes to hear it. Subscribe and guide the undertaking, the usage of the hyperlink inside the description underneath.